Oh, looks like a hound attack incoming. Wait, and Deerclops too? Well, hopefully this doesn't turn out like it did with Bearger last season. Hey there, my name is Soundtrack, and welcome back to another episode of my Don't Starve Reign of Giants Wagstaff playthrough series. Last episode, we started the process of taming a Beefalo and had our base get destroyed when Bearger got stuck in the kitchen. Will we suffer a similar tragedy when we get Hounds and Deerclops at the same time this season? Let's find out! It's currently day 163 and the first day of my third winter, and it's been about 16 days since I started domesticating my Beefalo. And looks like he's still hungry. Under ideal circumstances, it can take as few as 15 days to tame a cow, but I suspect that with last episode's Bearger interference that I'm probably at least a few days behind schedule. And to be completely honest, going into this session I have no idea how to tell when the domestication process is actually done. So, almost right off the bat I get too close to the coast and spawn Pengulls that set up camp where my drying racks used to be. Well, time to get some combat points for my Beefalo. I push one off to the side, then hold the F key until it's dead. So long as the combat music is still playing, other Pengulls will attack you if you get close to them, allowing me to kite them away one at a time. Not sure why this guy is just walking towards me though. I just tanked the last two together and the flock is dead, leaving the ice for me to mine at my leisure. So it's actually been a couple of months since I've played in this world, and I really should have rewatched and reviewed the comments from the last episode. Having failed to do so, I had forgotten that last time we realized that in single player Don't Starve, there are still some bugs with Beefalo that aren't present in Don't Starve Together. For example, in single player, the damage a ridden Beefalo does is actually based on the weapon your character is holding. Hence the reason those Pengulls were taking so long to kill, is I was still holding the walking stick. I don't feel bad about that though, as supposedly the Beefalo gets ornery points for each time it attacks, regardless of how much damage it does. So combat efficiency fail, but trait taming win? It's early winter and cold enough to give me a freezing warning, so I go ahead and stoke up the fire and drop my thermal stone in the fire chest to warm it up. I make a new opulent pickaxe, then use it to mine up the ice from the Pengulls, and spend most of the night organizing my kitchen and inventory and make a round of bacon and eggs for breakfast the next morning. The Beefalo gets a breakfast of cut grass, then his daily brushing. I still love the sound he makes when he gets brushed. Looks like he had thrown off his saddle during the night though. That's a sign that I haven't been feeding him enough, as the saddle gets tossed when obedience gets too low, or something like that. I decide to run up to visit Wumbo and clean out his pen, then go harvest my twigs one last time, as they'll be dormant throughout the winter. I grab my breakfast, stow some items, and then get to work rebuilding my drying racks. The racks get finished, but now I'm back to being really low on twigs again, which is my preferred taming treat for the Beefalo. Man, this guy is hungry. Kinda makes me wish I'd cultivated some dragon fruit or something to fill his belly with pies. I munch on some jerky to get my sanity back up, then I load up the drying racks with morsels, then harvest the grassy tufts as night falls. New spectacles get made during the night, and the old pair gets recycled into a new visor. I'll be wearing the hibernation vest to keep warm during the winter, so I trim down my inventory, place a few things in Chester, brush the Beefalo, then head out for the day. In order to cut down on the amount of twigs that I'll need to feed the Beefalo to keep domestication moving forward, I'll need to ride him as much as possible, while also doing lots of combat to keep the ornery points as high as I can. So I head to the winter war zone where Walruses wander, and find my first victims near the tall bird, spawning some Pengulls in the process. Looks like the wee McTusk is fast enough to avoid the Beefalo's attacks, but soon enough he's far enough from camp that he starts to walk home. Oh, looks like my pigs took out their walrus camp already. Loot gets gathered, though I just leave the tam o'shanters on the ground. I'm sure that will give future walruses some confidence. The third and final walrus camp gets baited with another flock of Pengulls, but for some reason the flock mostly just stayed home. Oh well, more ornery points for me. McTusk gets chased far from home and then dispatched, and I have trouble getting the Beefalo's big fat butt out of the way so I can store some stuff in Chester. My temperature drops below freezing on the way back to base, but I'm close enough that I just run back and warm up at the fire pit. I go to mine the last mini glacier, and another flock spawns, but I'll just wait to kill them when it's morning. During the night I mostly just sort my inventory, but then decide to make another thermal stone. Since I can't double up winter gear due to Wagstaff's reliance on his goggles, I decided to go ahead and use the double thermal stone in the backpack trick to get superheated. But before I can get warmed up, I get interrupted by a hound attack. Quick run to the tooth traps, fire gets made, and then I realize that I never reset the traps after the infamous Bearger incident. But with the help of the Houndius, Shootius, and the untriggered traps, the hounds go down just fine. Morning of day 166 arrives and I reset the tooth traps and gather up all the loot, then head over to the Beefalo to give him some breakfast. Apparently he tossed his saddle off again and I'm really low on Twig, so Twig gathering day trips are going to be in my future. And looks like those Pengulls are just using the same camp as the last flock, but didn't bother making any new glaciers. Interesting. Pack with double thermal stone goes on and half a minute later I'm nice and toasty. So, remember how I said I have no idea how to tell when a Beefalo is domesticated? Turns out it happens right here. No fanfare, no animations or sounds, unless maybe turning on the map and mounting interrupted those. Just a very subtle change in the appearance of the Beefalo's fur. So subtle that I didn't even notice it until I went back to start editing the video. So the rest of the session will basically be spent continuing to try to domesticate the Beefalo, not knowing he was already domesticated at 19 days from when the process started. Ah well, I'll just chalk it up as a learning experience. The rest of dusk is spent murdering Pengulls, and again, some of these guys are really pretty passive. By the time the last one falls, I'm getting Krampus warning sounds, but as I've already got the sack, I feel no need to spawn him. I gather up the Pengull loot, warm up again with the thermal stones, then hop in the saddle to go hunting for twigs. I decide to head towards the Deciduous forest, which has a decent amount of saplings, as well as some berry bushes. Most of the day is pretty uneventful. I harvest lots of twigs, feeding about half of them to the Beefalo, thinking I still need to domesticate him. Off to the right of the Pig King, I see an area with dug up saplings, a living log, and some regular logs on the ground. I think this is where I fought Bearger in my second autumn, and apparently never came back to clean up the carnage. I continue harvesting twigs through the night, ignore a sleeping koalefant, then head home when I'm getting close to being chilled. Morning arrives just as I'm getting cold and start a fire, and then I reload the drying racks with more morsels and then realize that Chester had gotten ditched along the road, so I run back to get him. I go ahead and harvest my bee boxes and learn that cows don't like sweets. That would have been an easy source of food for domestication, but oh well. I'm just really glad the second Bearger didn't get to the bee boxes, though he certainly got close. Dusk arrives just as I'm getting warmed up again, then I decide to get some more unneeded honorary points killing moleworms. I spend the night mostly fighting spiders above base, again not remembering that I'm only doing walking stick damage and not needing to further tame my Beefalo. We'll just call this mounted combat practice. Morning arrives and I bust down the level 3 den. There's plenty of twigs in the area, so I go ahead and harvest those, brush my pet, then clean up some of the mess that last autumn's Bearger left behind. It's a full moon tonight, and with Wagstaff not wearing a backpack most of the time, I decide to maximize my portable storage by transforming Chester into his shadow form. It's been a while since I've done this, and for some reason thought it took 9 purple gems, much as a snow Chester takes 9 blue gems. But when night arrives and nothing happens, I remember that it's actually 9 shadow fuel to make a shadow Chester. Quick swap and the transformation is complete! Yay! One more row of moving storage! The next morning I mount up and then head off to the desert to harvest tumbleweeds to replenish my low stores of grass and twigs. And of course, dispatch a few more walruses along the way. Ooh, nice shot, Houndius! Shall we rename it Walrusius Shootius? On my way to the desert, I decide to take out some more of the frogs from a prior frog rain. Nothing eventful happens while harvesting the tumbleweeds, and the next morning I run back to the summer base to warm up again. Now what I really should have been doing is hunting for some suspicious dirt piles, as I need more steel wool to make a war saddle. Though at this point I'm honestly not sure if it does in fact increase the damage output of the Beefalo. Guess I'll have to test it. Oops, Chester got ditched again. I really wish he would move faster to keep up. Kind of defeats the purpose of moving fast if you have to keep stopping to wait for him to catch up. And I might be tempted to find a mod to change that. I run back to Chester just as dusk arrives, then start making my way back to base. I make a few more bacon and eggs during the night, and then the next morning head over to do some pig evolution. Turns out the Beefalo is fast enough that you can safely land 3 hits between dodges against the Werepig. Now if only I would start using a stronger weapon. About midway through dusk, I headed to the swamp to have some fun down there. I kill a few spiders, smack a merm, but decide I don't want to tangle with his buddies and beat a hasty retreat. The next morning, I battle with the walruses again and then do a few more rounds of pig evolution. Gotta maintain those pigskin stockpiles. Just after killing the last werepig, I hear the baying of hounds, and Deerclops is coming too. Wow, 2 seasons in a row with simultaneous hound and giant spawns. At least this time I recognized it, so hopefully my base will be spared. I head down to the far side of the tooth trap area. The fire pit in the middle should lure Deerclops, but depending on where it spawns, it might also head towards the Beefalo pen to the south, or maybe the merm huts in the swamp. The hounds arrive first, so I head back to the tooth traps. Deerclops is still growling, so it hasn't spawned quite yet. The last hound goes down, and the clops is still groaning, so I head back down away from base. Night falls, and there's no more groans, but where did it spawn? And Froggles go on, and I'm off hunting for Deerclops. I hear the sound of its attack though. It sounded like it was to my right, so I head back over to the swamp and sure enough, there's the giant killing the merms. I don't care much about the merm hunt though and let the giant have its fun, but then it starts heading back towards my tooth traps, so I know my time is short as I really don't want it to destroy my Houndius shootius. I hop off my Beefalo, then run up to place a quick campfire. Old Clopsy steps on a tooth trap on its way up to the fire pit, and I run up and smack it with my walking stick, then head back to the fire. With my thulecite suit, visor, and a dark sword, I stand on the campfire and start whacking away. Because I was already at about half sanity before engaging, I've got shadow hands reaching for my fire right off the bat. The giant goes down hella fast though, but now I'm crazy and have a terror beak after me. Well, that was weird. As I put on my Infroggles, the terror beak disappeared. I grab the loot, then hop on my Beefalo, who apparently just slept through the fight, warm up a bit at the campfire, then head back up to base. Jerky and cooked mushrooms get my sanity back up to acceptable levels, and yeah, that was a fun little nighttime adventure. Oh hey, if you would like to see me playing Don't Starve live, as well as other games, be sure to check out the community tab of the channel where I post my weekly live stream schedule. I also have a Discord server where you can hang out and play with other gamers with similar interests. Links are down in the video description. The rest of winter ends up being pretty uneventful. I finally get around to replacing my base's alchemy engine, I remember to reset my tooth traps, and I continue harvesting twigs to continue taming my already tamed Beefalo. I finally find a suspicious dirt pile and track it down, but it's just a koalefant, which I take out. The next hound attack arrives really soon, just after I stumble upon a koalefant from a previous episode. I'm too far from base to make it to my tooth traps, so I just head to the Pigs vs Spiders war zone and run around until the hounds lose interest and bite something else. It takes a while, but eventually I only have a few on my tail, but I also have spiders chasing me and am now freezing. I take down one hound, then back off a bit and build a fire. The rest of the hounds lost interest and I'm far enough from the dens that the spiders also go away. I go ahead and wait until morning to see if there are still any hounds around, then run up to see the usual Pigs vs Spiders mayhem. Looks like the hounds did not survive the night. The snow melts as I'm heading back to base. Spring is almost here. My hibernation vest had almost deteriorated, so I patch it up with my sewing kit, then run back to the war zone to collect Chester, whose eye bone I had left on the ground for the hound attack. I spend the last day of winter looking for more suspicious dirt piles and find one right next to my pig houses. Unfortunately, the trail leads me right in between 2 walrus hunting parties, with McTuss taking pot shots at my shadow Chester. I run off a little ways to take out 2 of the hounds, but Chester is still getting pelted by blow darts and gets killed just as I finish off the second of the 4 hounds. Alas, Shadow Chester, I hardly knew ye. And to add insult to injury, I lost the trail while dealing with the walruses. Fortunately, the Beefalo was basically safe, as projectile damage such as blow darts goes to the rider and not the mount, so the only damage the Beefalo took was from the hounds, which don't hit as hard. Since I have my Krampus sack on, I'm able to gather up all the loot that was in Chester, and then head home. The next day will be spring, during which I'll not continue to tame my already domesticated Beefalo, but will try hunting for more Eucuses and will hopefully at long last be graced with a visit from the last giant on our goal list, the Moose Goose. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers!